What is up, everybody, and welcome to FLW Videos. In today's episode, we will be extending into another episode of the Deep Dive series, specifically talking about Blaziken, and of course how good it would be from a rating perspective, PvP, should you power it up, should you unlock the secondary charge move, and then of course so much more. Also, if you have not checked out the community day guide for that, go ahead and check out the link in the description. I unfortunately got marked as unsuitable for advertisers. I will be talking about that at the end of the video, but for the most part, it just killed the video. It did not get put in recommended. It did not make it out to the typical subscription boxes. So if you haven't seen that, wondering why I haven't uploaded it, well, the answer is I have, so go ahead and check that out. But for the most part, in this episode, we'll be talking about the best strategy for this Pokemon, because a lot of people have some questions to say, should I focus on gaining a Blast Burn Blaziken, or should I volunteer to get myself that Blaze Kick? I'll be talking about the strategy, and then of course giving you a guide for what you can do dependent on your situation. But anyways, I hope you do enjoy this video. If you do and it is helpful, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. Blaziken with a max EP of 2,848. Blaziken is a dual type Pokemon of fire and fighting type. Going ahead and taking a look at the stats, you will see that its best stat is its attack stat at 240, ranked out at 41st. However, its overall ranking is 95th in Pokemon Go. But do not let that fool you, because Blaziken really is that kind of one-trick pony, but fortunately for us, it is based on attacking, which means from a raid perspective, we are destined to see some success. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and take a look at the updated move pool for Blaziken, including the legacy moves as well. So as far as the fast moves are concerned, you have access to Counter, Fire Spin, and then for the charge moves, Overheat, Brave Bird, Focus Blast, and then of course Blaze Kick. And then as far as the legacy charge moves are concerned, we have Stone Edge and Blast Burn. Blast Burn coming from the Community Day exclusive move, and then Stone Edge coming by a mistake when it was first launched. So there are quite a bit of moves that we can choose from for Blaziken, so of course that leads into a lot of discussion of what is the best moveset for Blaziken. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of raid results so we can decide. As we take a look at all of these different raid results, I figured we might as well focus on a couple of them, such as the Reggie Trio minus the Reggie Rock. So first things first, with that Regice, you will see Blaziken in at that second position, and notice two interesting things. Number one, it ended up being with the move Counter, simply because Regice is also weak to the fighting type moveset as well. But second interesting thing is that Blaze Kick ended up being the best moveset for Blaziken over Blast Burn. And at the end of the section, I will showcase all of the different variations of this Blaziken versus the Regice, so you can kind of see how much of a difference that will be. Of course, that will determine on what you want to do with the moveset. But moving on, if we take a look at the results versus a Registeel, you finally see Blaziken taking over that #1 spot once again with that counter Blaze Kick, taking over the #1 spot from Moltres, which is very interesting considering Blaziken is a non-legendary Pokemon. This just goes to show that it might not be worth powering up legendary Pokemon in this case. Blaziken is definitely putting up a good case for that. I thought we might as well go over all of the move combinations and then run it up against one of these raid bosses. So the one that I decided to pick was versus a Regice. If you go ahead and check this out, you will see Counter and Blaze Kick take that #1 spot. Then up next, Counter and Blast Burn. Then finally, Fire Spin and Blaze Kick, and then Fire Spin and Blast Burn. You're kind of getting the picture. It appears as though Blaze Kick is actually the better moveset over Blast Burn. So that's going to lead into just this general conversation of what the heck do you do? Well, I'm going to go ahead and give you kind of a brief guide to kind of like let you know what would make the most sense in your situation. Now let's go ahead and kind of picture this. Let's say that the community day comes up and you end up getting yourself a bunch of Blast Burn Blazikens. Really, the only thing that you're going to have to worry about now is just using a fast TM to try to get the ideal moveset that you want, whether it is Fire Spin, whether it is Counter, but you are guaranteed to have yourself that Blast Burn, that fire type moveset that is going to be good for the charge move. On the flip side, let's say that you're like, you know what, I think that Blaze Kick is the better move. I'm willing to go ahead and just skip out on evolving during the community day, so that way I don't end up with Blast Burn and have to TM anyways. But here's the issue. You're not guaranteed to get the move Blaze Kick. It's just going to be the normal general move pool, and because there are so many moves available to Blaziken, it is unfortunately a TM trap. It could be a little bit difficult to get yourself that Blaze Kick Blaziken, so you're really going to have to decide on it. It's kind of a similar thing with Dragonite and Draco Meteor during its community day. You kind of run the risk of, do I want the guaranteed Dragon type move, or do I want to go ahead and go outside of that and then just try to use TMs to get to the ideal move, Outrage, for that? It's kind of a similar situation for myself. I'm probably going to go ahead and evolve a couple of them up to that Blast Burn. That way I've got some guaranteed ones. But then on the flip side, I'm probably going to hold off quite a bit of them and kind of focus on the Blaze Kick side. Just over time, I'll go ahead and TM them and then, of course, eventually get to that point. So yeah, we've talked enough about raiding. The next section that we typically cover is from a PvP perspective. Unfortunately for Blaziken in PvP, anytime a Pokemon is really built on just an attack stat, it doesn't necessarily stand a chance in at the lower leagues, especially the Great League. So unfortunately, Blaziken is not ranked whatsoever from the Great League. It's not ranked on the Ultra League. And then it's also not ranked on the Masters League as well. But if you are curious about the considered ideal moveset from a PvP perspective, here you go. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of diversity, but at the same time, Blaziken just isn't necessarily built for PvP. So I would personally focus on it from just a raid perspective. So that brings up the question, is this Pokemon worth powering up? Well, to be honest, it ends up beating Moltres in a couple of cases, and even when it doesn't beat Moltres, it's right behind it in at that number 2 spot from the fire typing, and that is a very exciting situation for Blaziken. So from that regard, it is definitely worth powering up, but for me personally, what I'm thinking I'm gonna do is hopefully get myself weather boosted versions of it, trade with a friend during the community day, just to try to get myself a lucky, you know, do whatever. And then of course afterwards try to eventually TM into that Blaze Kick and try to get as many around that level 35 as I possibly can. That way I don't really have to invest any Stardust, any candies into it. I'll just simply have to focus on the TM aspect of it. But that's personally what I'm gonna recommend on this situation. But if you wanna power it up, by all means go for it. You're definitely not going to regret it. As far as unlocking a secondary charge move, to be honest, Blast Burn and Blaze Kick being the two best moves, both of them being, you know, fire type, I don't think it necessarily makes too much sense. Unfortunately, from the fighting type, it's not that effective just because of its charge move not being the best. It really needs Dynamic Punch to be able to compete from that fighting type standpoint. So I'm not going to recommend opening up that secondary charge move. So yeah, that just about wraps up the video. Hopefully you did find this helpful in just kind of discussing whether or not you want to power it up, what your main objective is going to be in regards to the moveset. Hopefully I answered all of those questions. Now to get into some juicy kind of drama stuff related to YouTube. What ended up happening yesterday was I uploaded a community day guide for Blaziken, and it got flagged for inappropriate content. But as many of you know, my videos are very clean and it has nothing to do with someone actually watching my video or anything. I think what ended up happening was the term Blaze Kick for some reason got flagged as something inappropriate. So as far as the views are concerned, what ended up happening with the video is it just got demolished. It got taken out of the recommended. It just got pretty much a cold stop. As soon as it got flagged for being inappropriate, it really didn't get any views after that, which is very frustrating because kind of behind the scenes, I've never really talked about it this much, but I do YouTube part-time. And along with that comes a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of just kind of pressure for me to perform as well and as often as some of the full-time YouTubers do. And I managed to pull off a miracle getting that video out on time. I only had like an hour to film it, to edit it, to upload it to YouTube, so I had to be on my game, get everything right. Felt like I did, and then just to find out that I'm just gonna get demonetized for some automatic flagging system being flawed is really demotivating and unfortunate enough, but Unfortunately, that's just kind of part of the game on YouTube. So by the way, if you do want to check out that video, definitely check it out. You're going to have to go over to my channel, of course, to see it. It's not going to show up in the recommended until it gets fixed. But by that time, Community Day will most likely be over. But anyways, I felt like I should go ahead and share that with you. Thought that that was kind of interesting to provide that type of insight to everyone, since I don't typically talk about more of the personal or behind the scenes side of it. Anyways, I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and I will see you next time. I wanted to extend a huge thank you to the supporters over at Patreon. You definitely make this possible, and I 100% appreciate the support. If you are interested in supporting my channel on Patreon, definitely feel free to check out the link in the description.